In today's video, we're going to talk about the 7 key factors influencing real estate prices in Canada. Understanding why real estate prices do what they do can be an exhausting proposition. There are so many different factors out there that could influence if prices go up or if prices go down. And most of the time, it's something we never expect that changes the market. If you take it down to the basics, yeah, we all know supply and demand. But if we take it a little bit further and we look at the pillars of the housing market here in Canada, you have immigration or population growth. Then you have interest rates, and then you have unemployment rate. So those are the 3 main pillars. And as I've always said, if 2 of 3 of those pillars are strong, the market should be treading along okay. If all 3 are weak, that's when you see a crash happen. But let's complicate it even more for this video. Let's go over the 7 key factors influencing real estate prices in Canada. My name is Tom Storey. I appreciate you being back here on the channel. If you haven't already, make sure to leave this video a massive thumbs up, hit that like button if you haven't already, and join our growing community. We are on the way to 10,000 subscribers. We are getting so close, and it's going to be an awesome milestone when we get there. You can also go into the first link in the description, book a call with me at a time that works for you if you want to chat more about the real estate market. All right, let's get into the 7 factors. Now, some of these are going to seem pretty obvious, and some of these maybe not so obvious. And I'd love to know in the comments if there's anything you would add to this list or add on to what I'm talking about on a specific factor. I'd love to know in the comments. Number 1 is the cost of ownership. Seems pretty straightforward, right? The cost of ownership is where is interest rates at? Where is the stress test at? What am I getting approved for? And not just the cost of the asset, not just the sale price, but what is it costing me on a monthly basis to own it? I've talked about that a lot recently because even though you've seen sale prices really fall off, for any new buyer taking a mortgage today at a much higher rate, the actual cost of owning that asset hasn't changed that much. And that's not helping on the affordability side of things. And to add to this is probably the most important thing, is access to capital. We take it for granted here in Canada, or really North America, that you can walk into a bank and with 5% down buy a property. In Canada, it's a property under $500,000. But still, like, we have access to borrow money. Most of Europe is not like this. Most people don't own properties unless they buy them cash. Now, the argument could be made that would probably be better because we wouldn't have all this debt in Canada and all this debt that we're servicing. I don't disagree with that at all, but access to capital is a major factor why our real estate market has done what it's done. Number 2 is job security. Okay, so people have jobs. They can afford to get a mortgage, which means they are going to buy a house. They don't have jobs. They cannot do that, right? Now, we've talked about the fact that job losses, that's going to be what's going to have to happen for prices to actually go down, because we've seen the interest rates have gone up and prices came down, but the affordability didn't really change. If job losses actually start to happen at a high level, that's when you will see a change in the market. As of recording this video, the May numbers in Canada showed that job losses were actually negative, is a lot lower than we were expecting, which is the opposite from the beginning of the year. And that's kind of been the thing we've all been waiting to see if it actually happens. Number 3 is population growth. We brought over 500,000 new people into Canada last year, but the real number was closer to 1 million with the people that were already living here that then became Canadian citizens. If you continue to bring population into a certain area, they're going to need housing, and that's going to create more demand for the housing market. Pretty straightforward, but that is obviously one of the reasons, like all the other reasons we've talked about so far, why you've seen that significant price growth over the last few decades in Canada. Number 4 is supply. And okay, thank you, Captain Obvious. Of course we need more supply, but no, we don't just need more supply. We need the type of supply that people actually want to buy. I will stand by this statement for a long time. I don't think Canada has a housing problem in terms of supply. I think Toronto, Vancouver, and some other surrounding markets have a housing problem. You go to other markets in Canada, I don't think they have a housing problem. There's enough houses for how many people are there. But the supply that we desperately need is that more affordable housing, that move-up buyer housing. That's what we're missing. 10 more properties at $2 million coming to the market isn't that helpful to the average Canadian, right? Because the percentage of people buying in that price range is very small. So not only do we need supply, but we need the type of supply that people actually want to buy and can afford to buy based on the cost of ownership and the access to capital. Number 5 is regulatory changes. Okay, this is coming by the government. These are taxes, whether what we've seen recently in Toronto, like the vacant home tax, right? Or the foreign buyer tax, or the flat out ban on foreign buyers, or the stress test coming in. These are all changes that will impact the market in various ways that we really have no control over. These changes could also have been when they brought interest rates down at the beginning of the pandemic, or what they're doing right now with bringing the interest rates up, right? These are factors that will absolutely make a difference in what is happening in the current housing market. Number 6 is then global factors. These are things happening outside Canada that we cannot control. This is political changes. This is wars happening in other countries. It could have to do with people leaving their countries, refugees coming to Canada as well. There are all these different factors happening on a global level. And we've seen this recently with supply chain issues and a whole other list of things that I'm probably not educated enough to give you my opinion on that, because I try to stick to my niche here in real estate. But global factors will obviously impact the market. And these global factors are usually the ones that we never saw coming that make the biggest difference to what actually happens with our housing prices. And number 7 is a really, really important one. It is the replacement cost of building new real estate. So we talk about supply, we talk about new ways to bring more supply to the market, but what does it cost to bring that to the market? So even if we're building 30,000 new condo units, right, at some point this year, we're going to deliver them all. Well, what did it cost the developer to build it? How much was the city charging the developer to build it per unit? Jordan at Pre-Condo does a great job of breaking down those charts, right? And then what's the end user going to have to pay? Because the builder's not going to do it for free. They're not a charity, right? They're a for-profit organization. So if it's costing them $800 to $1,000 a square foot just to buy the land and build the condo with all the city fees in there, then of course they're selling it for $1,200 to $1,300 a square foot, but that is not affordable. And then you talk about the upzoning happening in Toronto, where now everyone can do laneway houses or extra apartments or duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes across the city. But you can't just do it. You need the money to do it. Then you got to build it. Who's going to finance it? What is the financing going to cost? The materials used and the contractors, what is the actual cost to bring that supply to the market? And that's part of the issue, at least in my opinion, is that it costs so much to bring new housing to the market that even though when we get this new housing to the market, it's not affordable housing by any means. So that's it. That's the 7 key factors that influence housing prices in Canada. I'd like to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Did I miss anything? Would you add anything? I'm curious to see how you guys respond to this one. My name is Tom Storey, and remember, home is where your story begins.